Ladies and gentlemen, we are live from the Isle of Man in the UK. This is John and Mike's MMA Corner.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a fantastic guest. And do you know what? I have to admit, I've done this podcasting for a while now, and I forget how long it's been when I've had someone on or when I've talked. And sometimes, when you're talking on social media, well, Ian, I've not had you on for a while, and it's, you went across, you moved away, you had a bit of a break from MMA, and then you're just slowly starting to crawl your way back in, sir. And you've been starting to do a little bit of work. So firstly, thank you for coming back. Great to talk to you. I love having you to correspond with, because your points of view are absolutely bang on. But let people at home know, buddy, what work you've been doing late, so they can get a taste of what you've been doing.
I just assumed you hadn't had me on because it was the lowest rating show of all time.
No, I am just. It's just me that's the lowest.
Yeah, so I'm back writing MMA, not full time, doing it more on a casual basis. A couple of articles a month for MMAsucker.com, which are based out of Canada. I also do a little bit of work which I don't broadcast for a Brazilian MMA website, but that's more translating articles for them, which I'll not reveal and go into because I kind of try to keep that on the down low so that they know that they're getting a good service. They don't want to know that I'm translating for them basically from from English to Brazilian for them. They're figuring that out, so it's not too bad. But other than that, I've just been following the sport more casually, and slowly over the last 6 months creeping back into that. Trying to know everything that's going on at the same time. And
you know what? It's been quite a bit happening this year. 2016's been, it's been a crazy year of upsets. Let's put out there Bisping beating Luke Rockhold in the rematch. And then obviously Dan Henderson getting his shot back at Bisping, and Conor McGregor and John Jones. It's been and that's just UFC. Then you look at Bellator; they're starting to reach out into Europe and the European market. The UFC Fight Pass just grabbing more and more promotions onto their kind of channel, so to speak. There's a lot going on, and New York obviously getting legalized, and UFC 205 is happening this weekend, and we're going to be talking about the UFC 205 card, but I think obviously we'll jump a little bit back in time to the Saturday evening in the UK, because Graham Bolan, who's the UFC Cage Warriors CEO, is doing a fantastic job. He's got Cage Warriors Unplugged. Now, we don't quite know what's in store. He's got stuff going on in the studio, on the building. People can go in. I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of product this is going to be. I don't know if it's going to be a regular thing. The card itself, he's got 2 stars, which he's kept hold of. The biggest fear was that they were going to get signed to the UFC. Chris Fishgold, the lightweight champion, and Paddy Pimblett, the featherweight champion. I think it's great that he's kept hold of both of them for their own careers to just keep growing, just keep developing, and help the Cage Warriors brand as well. Because you need these 2 stars to help bring in new faces while they're on there. Yeah,
and the problem with this weekend as well. Again, I'm really interested to see how this whole working in front of a studio audience is going to be. It's going to be something different. I think it'll be interesting to just watch at home. I'm kind of glad that I'm not one of them people that would have gotten an invite, because I think watching it from home is going to be a better understanding of what they're trying to do. But I agree with what you're saying, that I was really surprised that Fishgold and Paddy were, staying with Cage Warriors. I kind of thought Paddy might have, if not that Manchester card, might have crept on the Belfast card. And Chris Fishgold, I'm not as surprised as I am that as Paddy's around. I thought Chris could probably use a few more fights, but this weekend they've definitely both getting a decent step up from what they've had recently, and that's quite commendable, especially when you consider they probably could, with a bit of pressure, be put into the UFC already. So this is a gamble. They lose this and they're back to square one.
Yeah, I know. That's what I think. I take my hat off to Graham, because he could have easily went along with the route of picking a couple of European fighters who are probably veterans in that area on our weight class, have had a few fights, and they would have probably tested the pair of the guys, but would have more favourable win for Pimblett or Fishgold. But like you said, they've got 2 tests. One fight that's happening on the card that will go under the radar a little bit. Saj Hack against Sam Creasy. I like Sam Creasy as a young, talented kind of prospect, so to speak, in a way that he's unbeaten. You know, this kid is fighting well. Saj Haq, he's quick, and Saj has been fighting. He's been fighting at 135 and 125. Probably because it's not easy, maybe, for him to get fights at 125, suitable components. It's a good test for Sam Creasy because Saj has got really good skills.
Yeah, and to be honest, I kind of thought Saj was signed with
Bama.
Yeah,
me too. I thought that as well. Yeah.
There was some kind of press release earlier this year, wasn't there, that he had signed there, or did I imagine that?
He did. He was fighting on. Did he fight on Bama? I'm sure he fought on Bama, and I fought with Bama as well.
He fought. I know he fought Rani, didn't he? But
yeah.
I thought that he had signed another contract after that, but he's definitely a good test at this point in the development there. But I kind of feel like the problem with Saj is that he just doesn't excite. He's a good fighter, there's no doubting, but his style is very underwhelming for the casual fan.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've seen him a few times now up in my neck of the woods on the made for the Cage cards, which are always exciting. And he's someone that you see quite often around the scene up here. He's got fighters that he coaches, etc.
Yeah.
But I'm really torn. I think Sam is a good talent, like you're saying. He's exciting. If he wins this fight, this is a good little litmus test to how far he's going to go, whether he needs to take another step back.
Yeah.
But being on a card of this magnitude can only be good for him.
Yeah. Yeah, the exposure as well. I think that it's great timing for this card with UFC 205. The pair of them, and BT as well, are promoting the pair of them together. I think the amount of viewers that you'll get on BT Sport and the UFC Fight Pass for this Cage Warriors card is going to be a lot higher than, say, if this event was last week or the week after. It's really worked hand in hand. Again, that's probably, partly down to Graham being tactical and, strategic. So every fighter on this promotion has a huge opportunity to really get their name out there, get a bit more, maybe a fan base, and also get other promotions, maybe not just UFC, to get their eyes on them, to maybe get a bit of interest. Because let's say, you got Cage Warriors, Bellator might be looking at these fighters. You don't know. There's other promotions, KSW, let's be honest. KSW are a force to reckon with, I think, in my opinion. I think I saw someone on Twitter the other week put, which is the best European promotion? Cage Warriors or Bama? And I straight away went, I think you might want to throw KSW in that mix. They're killing it.
Yeah.
They are killing it right now. And then also you've got ACB League are just starting to climb up as well. They announced the Manchester card as well I can't remember when it is now, start of the year. I think maybe March time, but I think people need to recognise that Cage Warriors, yeah, fair enough, they've got that down to a T, but there are some talented promotions outside of Europe, outside of the UK, sorry, which fighters in the UK scene should look out to. Look at John McGuire going to fight for a title in the KSW. That's absolutely awesome.
And not just that, KSW can pay the higher fight purses as well.
Yeah.
So, and it's not that uncommon. If you go and fight for them once, they'll invite you back a couple, even if you don't perform very well. I mean, we saw with Ollie Thompson. How many times has he been invited back despite losing countless times? The same with some of the American guys. Jay Silva's been over quite a few times. So I agree with what you're saying. I think KSW often gets overlooked, but for me, they are Europe's top promotion. And it'll be interesting to see if they, come back to the UK in 2017, because I think that was a positive move.
Yeah.
But it's now just a case of, can they get more exposure to the casual fan? Which, to be honest, I don't like to see too many promotions go there, but I think KSW would be the perfect promotion to fit on Fight Pass.
I reckon so too. I think it would be awesome, and I think as well, because for the European scene as well, TV deals and stuff like that. It's UFC Fight Pass doesn't need a TV deal. In that sense, you can watch it anywhere in the world. The only thing I think with UFC Fight Pass is I just want to know the numbers. I want to know the numbers on what's getting watched, who's watching what, because sometimes I'll be there on a Sunday and it pops up on the Fight Pass. There's a fight card on with some random card in the world, and I'm thinking, oh man, I didn't even know that was on. And I think, I wonder how many people tune into this. I love it. I love Fight Pass, and it's an absolute steal for the price it is. So like we said before, a fight as well that's going to go on this card, Matt Inman versus Che Mills. Now, Mills was going to fight Liu Long on the Wales card last month. That fell through because Liu Long had some issues outside of the cage, so he had to pull out of it. This one is a big one, I think, for Matt Inman, because he started pulling things back again. He had that fantastic fight against Tommy Quinn in Made for the Cage, because he lost to Liu Long pretty convincingly when the two of them fought in Cage Warriors a little while back, and I think this is a good marker for Matt Inman to get himself back in the mix again in the welterweight division. Che Mills himself, I think for Che Mills, I'm questioning Che Mills. I want to see how he does on this test, because I think if he doesn't get the performance from Che here, I might feel like saying that in my head. I'm like, Che, probably want to step down now. That's probably time to go.
Yeah, no, it is an interesting fight for that point entirely, because Che Mills kind of floats around on his UFC tenure name-wise.
Yeah.
If you look post-UFC, he's looked absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
His one win, I think, was Leroy Barnes, I'm not a fan of Leroy.
Me neither.
As a person, he markets himself very well, which gets him into these fights. And, you know what you're going to get with him. He is an exciting fighter. I just don't think he's very talented. And that was a fight Che should have won. But the other fights he's taken part in, Pendred and Marshman, and even that Montgomery fight at Bellator in his last fight, he has not looked anywhere near like the guy who was fighting in the UFC. And I agree with you what you were saying. It's nice to see Matt Inman kind of come back, because he was somebody I had written off as well.
Yeah.
And he did look good in his last fight. Against Ronson at MMA Gala, which I actually watched this week on YouTube. I hadn't seen it, because when I was looking at the card, I was like, I thought he lost his last fight, because they were building on the pressing that he was coming off a win. And he actually fought, I think it was a couple of months ago, it might be in August, July, and he looked good as well. So I cannot look past an Inman win here. I'm kind of struggling to see Che Mills as somebody who's going to go on and do anything in Cage Warriors other than add name value at this point.
Yeah.
And I think this fight's a case of one fighter wanting it more than the other, and the other just collecting a paycheck. So, Mills to lose for me.
Like you mentioned, Leroy Barnes, he's on the card against John Redmond. And it's another one where that is those two guys are the type. The matchup is kind of ideal for the both of them. The positions that they are in general in their MMA careers and the kind of records. I'm with you. Like Leroy Barnes, he'll fight, but like look at his last fight. He got his legs chopped apart. He got wobbled. He got crap, and. Now Cheng, he hadn't fought for 3 years, and he just looked like he just took Leroy Barnes apart, and it was one of them ones where I think, and they're sticking Leroy back in again, what it is, but at the same time, I think that matchup itself, the pair of them probably just stand and bang and swing. I think John Redmond might, if he can get the takedown, because I know Leroy Barnes doing some grappling comps. But I just, it's a stand-up game. You can have the grappling game all you want, but Leroy's stand-up is the problem. He just doesn't take the punch like he should be, like a lot of guys can. I'm not saying he's chinny, but he just doesn't take a punch very well.
Yeah, and I mean, this fight is the perfect fight for an undercard. You know what you're going to get, like you said, you know what you're going to get out of these two. Both of these, for me, are not anything above a local club scene fighter. Leroy's kind of blew up a little bit when he had that, the back-to-back wins over Mickey Burns and Steve Watson, which was, how long, 6-7 years ago? Might even have been longer.
Yeah.
It feels like it's been longer. And then they kind of rushed him into fighting all these guys, like we mentioned, Che Mills and Norm Parisi and people like that, and he just wasn't at that level, and it kind of hindered him slightly. He might have been able to, with the right maneuverability, be someone that you could have pushed a little bit better than they tried. I find that interesting what you're saying, that he's been doing some grappling tournaments, etc. Because his submission game, if he's on top, is not bad. That's one thing I will say about him. But his takedowns are not very good. No. So he should win this fight. He should.
Yeah. But
you just never know you just never know with him, do you?
No.
And I don't think I'm really interested in necessarily seeing it, but one thing's for certain: win or lose, Leroy Barnes will probably fight on Cage Warriors again in 2017.
Yeah, well, he lost after those two wins. He lost 5 in a row, and then he because I remember he lost to Carl Redfern, and Carl Redfern stepped up from welterweight to middleweight and just starched him with his boxing. And then after that, he had a bit of time off, and then to get himself back into it, he fought a guy called Wayne Johnson. I'm just trying to check this. I remember this from Gods of Arena, who had I think he was making his pro debut or something. He had I think he had maybe one fight under his belt or something like that. And then he fought, well, I want to say the name, and you'll probably have a giggle, Brad Conway. Yeah. And surprisingly, he won that with a rear naked choke in a minute. Really weird. So, he got a couple of wins back under his belt, but you think, dude, you can't fight guys at that level and then step up to, it just doesn't work. You can't do it. You can't, because you're going to get a loss like he did in his last bout. You can't just fight guys who are not going to fight you how these, high-level guys will. And that's, like you say, mate, you're spot on with the decision there. The co-main event and the main event, that's two fights that we said before. They got tough opponents, Chris Fishgold, he is a submission gorilla. Now, he recently did a super match against Tom Breeze, lost that with a rear naked choke. But to be fair, Tom Breeze, I've met him in real life. He is ridiculously huge he was fighting at welterweight. Now he's thankfully gone to middleweight, because I don't know how he made it to welterweight. I literally do not know. I stood next to him, and this was just before I cut down to welterweight, and I thought I was having a tough time going down to welterweight. I dropped 40 pounds. I thought, how much is that guy dropping to get to? He's just 6 foot, I don't know, 6'3", 6 foot, and he just looked stupidly big. Now, Chris Fishgold, he went into it, and you know what? Chris Fishgold, we know he's got a legit ground game. The guy is a monster. Now, he's fighting Nick Webb, and Nick, dude, has been around in Alaska fighting championships for a long-ass time. He fought some really good fighters in that division. And again, he's going to have some good, he's probably going to have some pretty good wrestling pedigree. I'd imagine from stateside, it's just a kind of stereotypical thought there. But for Fishgold, he has actually got really good striking. He just doesn't need to use it as much as we think he does. He's been at Thailand. He's spent a lot of time in Thailand in the past. I like the matchup because you get to see a good test for Chris here, because he gets this win that really does kind of cement his position as a legit lightweight, not just in Cage Warriors. I mean, just generally European world scene. Yeah,
and I find it quite interesting for the simple fact, like you said, both great, especially Chris is a good grappler. We say, Tom Breeze, like you said, I don't know if you saw EMEA this weekend.
Yes, I did. Against Vinny Magalhaes.
He did not look that much smaller than Vinny, which is crazy because Vinny's a big guy. Yeah. So I can totally get why he lose that there. But what's really interesting is I think we will see Chris's striking in this one, because Webb is actually a good submission artist, and he's not someone who's scared to be on his back. He's not scared to be on top. He works from both positions, but his stand-up is quite poor. So this is the ideal chance for Chris to maybe show off a little bit more of a round set of skills. And ultimately, I wouldn't be surprised if a win. I know he signed a recent new contract along with Paddy, but a win, and let me say that card that's being announced for London for March. I think this, as you said, people are going to watch Cage Warriors in the build up to the UFC this weekend on BT Sport. Yeah, this is a perfect chance for people to see him get on Twitter and go to Dana White, Sean Shelby, whoever they're going to hit up. Yeah, we want to see him in the UFC, because Paddy's kind of taken most of that. Yes, but Chris has been kind of simmering away underneath Paddy, and is equally as deserving, in my opinion, of some attention. He's been fantastic for Cage Warriors. So this could be his coming out party for maybe a few more fans who. Ultimately, let's not get past the point that anyone who watches Cage Warriors this weekend is tuning in to watch Paddy. It's more Paddy's hair. I think it's just something about the hair. It's style points, you just want to learn how to get that style. But that's the thing with Fishgold, because it's like a double-edged sword for him, because if he wins with a submission, he gets the submission win against a guy, like you said, who's got a hell of a lot of submission wins in his own right, who's a very good grappler. Then if he wins in the striking, he gets to showcase the other side of his arsenal of the striking. So
Obviously, I'm not writing Nick off here. I'm just saying that I'm looking from UK perspective. If for Chris here, he's got a great opportunity on both sides here to really showcase what he can get out of himself in two formats. I think that I'm looking forward. I hope, because Nick's quite long for a lightweight. Well, I say quite long. For 5'10", it's pretty long for a lightweight. I'm looking forward to seeing Chris handling obviously the little bit of height difference and getting the striking off, because I've spoke to Chris before in the past about it. He said it to me before. He said, if I don't need to use my striking and I can get you down and tap you out, I'll just do that. What's the point in wasting my time striking when I can just get him down? And I think this is a great opportunity for him. At the main event, you said people are tuning in for the man himself, Paddy Pimblett, who has. He was on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani. He started to get that exposure, and even though Ariel will ask certain questions, and but it's the exposure on there that's kind of magnifies what Paddy Pimblett is about. He's got the mouth. I thought he might have been on the Belfast card against Artem Lobov. I really did think that fight was going to happen, but it didn't. It's okay. There's still time. This fight itself against Julian Rosa, man, Julian Rosa's a legit name again. Chris, and like we said before, they got legit contenders. Julian Rosa has fought in the kind of, let's say, the top level, which is the UFC. He's had a win and he had a loss, but he's been in there. He's mixed in that kind of that company, so he won't be fazed by this fight in the sense of he won't be fazed by the big bright lights. It's just a great chance again, like you say, like Chris had. It's a great chance for Paddy.
Yeah, well, this is the kind of fight where Paddy's probably going to turn from a boy to a man in terms of, how we're going to rate him. I mean, this, like you said, he's fighting somebody with a much better background than the guys he has been fighting recently. And, one thing that you can throw at Cage Warriors way, and I think this kind of dispels it, is anybody who signed up to Graham's talent agency Intensity, he's going to try and, get them winnable fights that you get them to the UFC, because financially that's the right thing for him. Yeah. And for Chris and for Paddy this weekend, he's kind of gone completely against the mold of helping them get to the UFC. He's given them two legitimate tests, which for the casual fan, for guys like us who follow the sport a lot more closer, are going to be able to say, right, I know what Paddy can do against a guy who's got excellent takedown defense. He can take someone like that down. He can wrestle against an American or a Canadian or a North American guy who knows how to wrestle. And Julian Rosa, I had this conversation with people on Twitter because I saw someone say, "Oh, another can for Paddy," and I was like, You're looking at this completely. This guy is a legitimate. He might not be a UFC caliber opponent, but he's the kind of guy that you would have to beat to get the UFC. Yes, and that's where Paddy is at the moment. So, I'm kind of on the fence. I think Paddy will win this fight, but I will not be surprised if Paddy or Chris, one of them, loses this weekend. Oh,
that's what. I'm with you, because that's the thing about this. They've got matchups where you question. You go. It's not. I'd say it's like 55-45. It's not quite a 70-30 that you probably last two matchups were. This one's a bit closer than you think, and squeaky bum time. Even for Graham, he'll be watching it and he'll be like, it would be pretty like he'll be hoping that they get the win, because what it will do for them is a lot, and for him as well. But in general, that's a good fight. But then again, it might bring the best out of these guys. Because maybe Chris and Paddy needed these opponents to bring the best out of themselves. That's sometimes the case with some fighters. But I tell you what, I will not be missing a goddamn fight on that card. When Cage Warriors came back, I was made up. The fact that he got the BT Sport deal and the Fight Pass deal, that is a brilliant move from Graham. He's obviously got we know he's got the kind of connections with UFC, but it's awesome for them, the promotion. And people now, they're starting to come back to Cage Warriors fights, because I'm got to be honest. You should know that if you're a fighter and you want to probably maybe look towards UFC, probably a good idea to get with Cage Warriors. The exposure on Fight Pass, etc. BAMR, they stick you on a 4-fight deal if you sign with them, but they only have 4. I think this year they've only had 4 cards. It's a bit, and you're not going to fight on every card. It's a bit of a tough one. That's why, for example, I think Norman Park, Rob Whiteford, Jake Boswick, Even Danny Mitchell to extent, they're all taking one fight deals outside of, like, for example, likes of Bama and stuff, because they don't want to be tied down, and that way they got the options of fighting more than once here, there, and everywhere. So yeah, I'm stoked for this card for Cage Warriors. Great way to round the year off for them. You know, the comeback year, let's say, and then it leads on to Ian the astonishingly good card of UFC 205, my man. And there's one fight that got pulled off, which you probably have a bit of a heart tug on that one, but you know, Rashad Evans and Tim Kennedy's is off. Sadly, one fight had to go at one point. It was like, there's no way a card like that could go all the way through with every fight happening, but it's happened. It's a shame.
Yeah, and I mean, if you had to choose one fight on that card with any of the big names on, this is the one that you could probably get away with losing.
Yeah.
I was heartbroken, like I said to you before we were recording that. I had just finished an article on Rashad Evans and how a win for him could probably put him straight in amongst the contender talk at middleweight. And literally 2 minutes before I pressed publish, it was announced that he was out. And it does seem, for all intents and purposes, that it's kind of a technicality why he's out, and there's actually not a thing wrong with him.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. I hope they can get them two booked probably against each other again very soon. But yeah, I think, like you said, there was bound to be one that went. And that's just, you know, thank God it's not one of the main card fights. I
know. I think if Donald Cerrone wasn't on the card already, he'd be down to fight Tim Kennedy. You know, even though they know each other, he'd be down for it. But it's a tough one, because I think, I got to be honest, even though Tim Kennedy's not fought for a bit, I probably wouldn't want to fight him anyway, because he's just he's a solid grappler for a start, and he's a bit of a pain in the ass to do the fight. It's not like an average middleweight. He's a big middleweight for a start. He's not bad. He can handle himself. You know, we had the stool moment with Yoel Romero, where technically he did win that match. You know, they're trying to sort him out. I think, like you say, if they can't get anyone in, I think 206 would be ideal. If they can make sure that Rashad's medically cleared, stick him on the 206 card. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's a good idea to get him on that card. Bolster that. I think they'll do that card a lot, because they need to bolster up a bit. But yeah, let's go to this card anyway. They start the card off. Do you know what? The fact that they've got this many women's fights on the card, you know, they're really pushing the women on. Like UFC 200, they had the main event, which was a women's fight. They're doing it out there again. You know, Liz Carmouche against Caitlin Cook again. This, for me, it's a warm-up fight. It's a good fight. This is like, there's two fights on the card, I said, Ian, that I was probably the two fights I've got the least amount of invested interest in is this one and the Natal Boach fight. But for this fight here, it's a big one for Carmouche more than anything, because she could do with a win to get herself back in that mix of the bantamweight kind of contendership, because she kind of went off the rails. But things aren't working out well for her. Technically, I think she's probably a more sound fighter and a better grappler than Kukian, but it's a big stage. It's a big opportunity, really, for Caitlin.
Yeah, and it's been so long since we've seen Liz Carmouche. Just getting Sherdog's fight, and I didn't realise it's been, you know, well over a year. And she's the kind of fighter that I kind of heard at the beginning of the year that they were hoping. She was one of those fighters that was hoping the UFC were going to adopt a 125 division. Yeah. Because she would have went down, you know. And after we saw that Joanne Calderwood performance against Latino, that we were kind of like, well, let's do it. Yeah. And it didn't happen. So now she's going to have to go back to 135, which is, you know, we know that she fought Ronda Rousey, and, you know, she had that close moment. But other than that, she hasn't looked good at all. You know, a couple of wins, but they're against. I mean, Jessica Andrade, that's a good win, but we know that she's a strawweight now. She should never have been at 135. It's crazy that she was. And Lauren Murphy fits exactly into Carmouche's mold. They're the same type of fighter, a veteran.
Lauren won that. I'm telling you now, I still, to this day, Lauren won that fight. I won't argue to a toss.
You know, so every time she's fought a big name, she's kind of lost, which is... I don't know how... I mean, I'm glad you pronounced the Caitlin surname, because I wasn't sure if it was Chukagian or Kukagian or Kukagian or... I mean, I remember her fight against Lauren Murphy, because I remember watching it, but other than that, I'd never seen her before.
That was a debut. That was her UFC debut against Lauren, yeah.
And she actually looked pretty good, so I really don't know who to pick in this one. You want to pick Carmouche because I've seen more of her.
I pick Carmouche just, I think, because Carmouche, if she fights to her strength with that grappling and the wrestling, I think she could just just get the decision win. And I think that's the position that Liz is in at the moment. It's you got to be careful what you do, I think, with the record she's got in the UFC at the moment. I know she got a win in the last fight, but I think just getting that win is more important than how she gets the win. Do you know what? Fighters might not say that they do that, but it does happen. And fighters are, they're not stupid when they're in there. If they can get the win by looking active enough and just grind her out, punch her out with a couple of punches and just get the decision win, she'll do it. But I have to admit, this next fight I am proper into, because Jim Miller and Thiago Alves. Now, Thiago Alves stepping in at 155 is what's got my interest. I want to see how he looks at 155. I always question dudes stepping down a weight class when they've, after he's been in fight game for a while. He's not a young spring chicken, because always, like, even Rashad Evans going down to 185, I was a bit dubious about it, because you think Thiago Alves is some young kid. He's over 30 now. He's in the early 30 bracket, and you think, I don't know how well it's going to work for him at 155. And Jim Miller, he's been in lightweight for so long, it's nothing new to him. Jim Miller's last performance, beautiful. I don't know how to look at this, and I couldn't pick anyway at the moment. I probably would go with Thiago. No, I'll probably go with Jim Miller. Oh, no, I don't know, actually. I don't know. Go on, what are you thinking, Ian?
I'm kind of in the same boat. Interestingly, I saw someone mention this on Twitter this week, and it's really interesting. Jim Miller, this weekend is arguably the UFC's biggest ever card.
Yeah.
Jim Miller has fought on UFC 100, 200, and 205, which are, other than maybe the Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor, fights, they are the three biggest cards, especially in terms of what they're trying to pull off with it. So Jim Miller is clearly somebody that the UFC look at as being a worthy person to put on a big card, because you know what you're going to get with him. Yeah. That being said, if Thiago Alves is motivated, in shape, the weight cut's not too hard, and is not as gun shy as he was against Jordan Mean, he should beat Jim Miller. His skill set matches up really well with Jim Miller. The question is, if it's a bad weight cut, Jim Miller is a kind of guy who's in your face, pressure, get on top of you, not scared to mix it up with some strikes to get onto the ground where his advantage tends to be. Yeah. So it's a big test. It is a big test for Thiago Alves at 155. It'll give us a clue of if he's going to be someone that's going to break the top 15 or not. I'm going to pick Thiago Alves purely because I think he has more ways of finishing the fight, but I would not be surprised if Jim Miller wears him down to a decision in a very exciting fight. Yeah,
it is. It's because of that Jordan Mean fight and the damage that Thiago Alves taking. That's what gets me. I think, man, like, is he taking too much hits? Jim Miller as well. The pair of them a bit worn. They're a bit worn veterans in the sport, and you think that's why it's on a knife edge for me. But then again, I think Thiago Alves probably is the more threatening striker. But Jim Miller's so game. I'm still toying. But man. Then again, it's the weight cut. How does Thiago Alves look at 155? And there's so many factors to take into it. But then again, like you say, Jim Miller, he also was on. It still grabs me to this day. He was on the UFC 168 card where Ronda Rousey was. I think it was Ronda Rousey main event, or was it? No, Ronda Rousey was co-main event, and Anderson Silva and Weidman were main event. I think off the top of my head, and Rousey got the armbar finish. I know, surprise, shock horror. But actually, Jim Miller's armbar against Fabrizio Canoe was probably one of the best armbar setups and armbar finishes I've seen in the UFC. And he didn't get the 50,000 only because Ronda Rousey got one. And I was like, Ronda's action was quite sloppy compared to Jim's. I was like, oh, how the hell? But yeah, he gets on these massive cards because they know what he's going to bring. The next fight up, you're going to get violence in this one. Vincent Luque stepping in against Belal Muhammad. Now, Vincent Luque stepped in a semi-short notice, 3 weeks, I think, short notice against, because Lyman Good got popped, or not popped, we don't know what's going to happen yet. But Belal Muhammad, I'm probably going to pick Belal. He's a bit my boy, bit of favoritism. It's a good fight because Vincent Luque likes to stand and bang, but also Vincent Luque's got some good kind of slick submission that he can slick onto people, but Belil's grappling is actually really good that people don't realise. I will go Belil here because he's got really good cardio and his striking's actually pretty crisp.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Belil for a couple of reasons. His style of fighting, like you said, he's very easy to watch, very good on the eye. But when he took that fight against Juban and lost, I liked how he instantly turned around and was like, I want to fight straight away. That wasn't a full count, that wasn't me. And, you know, he looked fantastic against Augusto Montana. So this, I think it would have been nice to have had Lyman good, because I think a win against Lyman would have maybe pushed him further forward a lot quicker than a win over Luque will. But this is another example of a good fight on the undercard, which is probably going to deliver some kind of violent finish, and it's going to propel one of these guys to a position where a lot of fans are going to see them and be like, well, I want to see that guy again. And I'm with you. I cannot pick against Muhammad in this fight, because I feel like he's a little bit more well-rounded. He's fought better fighters. You know, even when you go back to some of the fights he had for Tate, he fought some decent fighters. I mean,
Steve Carl beating Steve Carl, like, woo! And I don't mean he didn't just beat him; he beat the living days out of Steve. He changed Steve Carl. Wow, that was that's probably Belil's best performance today. That was absolutely phenomenal, that fight.
Exactly, and that's why I can't see it going against him. But like you said, you know, Luque isn't a terrible fighter by any means. He's someone who, when they first signed him, I'm like, oh, they've signed, you know, I've not really heard of him. His record wasn't anything stand out, but he's actually looked pretty good inside the octagon, you know, since he made his debut for them. So, like you said, slick submissions, but he does prefer to stand and bang, which is good. And just bringing him up on Sherdog, I didn't know he was associated with the Blackzilians, so he's obviously at a decent training camp.
He was in the tough. Series, Blackzilians versus ATT.
See, I don't watch the Ultimate Fighter.
I only know because I've read about it, because I don't watch the Ultimate Fighter either. I stopped watching it a long time ago.
Oh yeah, I couldn't even tell you who wins the finales pretty much. I look at the card, and then I never realised that it was actually a finale fight until at the end when they get the trophy. I'm like, oh, I just thought this was part of the main card. So that's going to be a good fight. But like I said, Muhammad all day, like you, I'm going to pick him.
The next fight, I was a bit surprised about it. I don't know, maybe I think Tim Boach must be like a New York native or something. I'm not sure, but Rafael Natal against Tim Boach. It's one of them ones where it's like they're both kind of outside the top echelon. They're never going to be pushing for a title, these two. At one point, I thought Tim Boach was going to end up having to stop, probably retire, maybe up get cut. I thought he was going up to 205. I don't know what was going on with him. But then again, I think maybe just Tim Boach, he is a solid fighter. But this fight, I'd probably go with Tim Boach, because Natal just doesn't do it for me in general. His style, I also think cardio-wise, but oh no, I have to go Natal fights at New York, but you know, I just don't really pay attention to the dude because I don't think he's that exciting. But yeah, I'd probably go Boach myself, mate, on this one, just because the power that Boach has, you'll probably put him away.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think Natal's one of them guys that you're really surprised is still in the UFC, because he never really looks impressive, but he knows how to win a decision.
Yeah.
So he's kind of done a good job of hanging around and putting some wins together. And you know, surprisingly, this is a guy who's main evented a UFC event before, which you would never get. I mean, the same with Tim Boach when he fought Dan Henderson. Like, what's Tim Boach doing headlining a fight card? But I'm with you. I'm not really excited by this fight. I'm going to pick Tim Boach. He has the same body type as me. He's obviously a better fighter than me, but I like to think Tim Boach to win this. I think he'd probably stop Natal as well.
Yeah, he has got a kind of crazy bit of power on him, Tim Boach. He's just like that. Who was it he did it to? Was it Stungun when he just does uppercuts from hell? He had a collar tie, single collar tie, but it was like a reverse collar tie. Then just threw the uppercuts and dropped him. Oh, I think it was I can't remember who it was now. I think it was Stungun. I can't remember now off the top of my head. Not Stungun. Okami. It was Okami. Sorry, I think it was Okami. He actually did it to you. Just.
It was, yeah.
Oh my gosh! Woo! that was one of the best knockouts I've seen, if I'm honest with you, because it's just so unorthodox. Next up, right, okay, I'm going to touch wood, because he hasn't made it into the actual cage yet, so he could injure himself on the steps into the cage. But Khabib Nurmagomedov is fighting Michael Johnson. Now, Michael Johnson, let's be honest, after the fight with Nate Diaz, I thought, man, I don't know if Johnson's going to be the same. Then he got matched up against Dustin Poirier, and I thought, wow, that's a crap matchup to have to come back to, because Dustin Poirier was on this little tear in the 155, and then he absolutely starched. Like, this is starched Dustin Poirier. Now, Ian, the 155 division is absolutely insane. There's no one who's like clear the monster, like who's going to dominate everyone apart. You know, like, look, Rafael dos Anjos, everyone thought he was going to reign for a while. It just doesn't seem to be anyone that can do it. Like, I know obviously you got Tony Ferguson, who's had his extended long win streak, and Khabib as well, he's unbeaten, but I don't know, Khabib's been out for a while. Will Johnson's speed with his hands catch Khabib coming in? Man, there's so many questions. I'm probably going to go with Khabib just because of his horrendously good grappling and relentless grappling that could probably wear Michael Johnson out and beat Michael Johnson in that kind of side of things. But damn, this is it is a tough one to call.
Yeah, and you've kind of hit the nail on the head there, because this is a big test for Khabib, purely because of how active Johnson's been compared to him in that time.
Yeah.
And it's also a big test for Michael Johnson, because Khabib's pretty much the perennial #1 contender, even though he's been out injured for so long. I see this fight, there's only two ways this fight for me is ever going to go down. Michael's going to have to stick a move and look for a big shot, because if he lands anything big like he did against Dustin Poirier, that's a big win for him. He does not want to get into a grappling exchange with Khabib. He needs to use the leg kicks sparingly, not try and wind them up too much. Khabib on the other side, if he gets a hold of Michael Johnson and takes him down, he's either going to grind out and just keep position, which he's very good at, and it's not the most attractive. I think he needs to win convincingly to cement his place above Tony Ferguson as the next contender. So I'm expecting him to get to, if he does get hold of Johnson, get him down and work for a submission or work for a ground pound finisher. And I think he probably will do it. I just think it's a bad matchup for Michael Johnson stylistically.
Yeah, because Khabib as well, to close the gap, he doesn't do it technically. He just literally will run at you with a flying knee or some wild thing. Not because he's trying to land it, just because he wants to get that close to you that he can hold on to you to grab you and get you down. And in my head, I see a rear naked choke, the fact that he might have backside control, trying to throw some strikes. Johnson's just tired, trying to get up, sinks the hooks in, gets a choke, and if he goes with a submission win. And like you say, you're dead on. If he really wants that title fight, after the performance Tony Ferguson just put on, Khabib must mentally go, I've got to finish. And hopefully he doesn't try to push for the finish. He just lets it come to him. Because if he tries to push too much, then that's when you could, get to the decision or even lose the fight itself. It's going to be sounding weird to say, but the prelim main event is Frankie Edgar versus Jeremy Stephens. Yep, I said that out loud. Yeah. Well, of course, if you don't know who Jeremy Stephens is, who the fuck is he? Who the fuck is that guy is the best way to describe it. Jeremy Stephens, I'll tell you what, I will go back to that press conference quickly, Ian. If I'm Jeremy Stephens, I did the right thing, calling out Conor, spit in my mouth, because no one was going to ask him a question. He was going to sit there and no one was going to say a goddamn thing to him. And the only way you're going to get attention is by spitting your mouth out, because that's the problem. When you go to those presses, I think it was I remember when he first started doing it, and CB Dollaway was matched up against Lyoto Machida, and no one asked CB Dollaway a question. And I think, it's kind of pointless, some of the people being there. Like, I don't even think, did Yoel Romero get asked a question? I can't even remember now. It's, there's people over there, there's no one even asked or even interested in. But Jeremy Stephens did the right thing, got his name there, started spouting his mouth, and now he has a great opportunity against Frankie Edgar. And I think it's a good chance for him against Frankie, because Frankie, the way to beat Frankie is how Jose Aldo did it. Just wait for Frankie to come to you. Don't chase Frankie. Frankie comes to you, and you just pop him off, pick him off. Man, and Jeremy Stephens got some legit heavy hands and power, and he's He's nailed the weight cut now. He's making 145 a lot more comfortable. The conditioning's there. It's a dangerous fight for Frankie, this, because this for me is do or die for Frankie. If he loses this, does he bother to try and do 135? It's a bigger match for Frankie than it in career wise, but for Jeremy, for his potential for like getting himself in the mix of 145, that's big for him. But for Frankie, I think it's got other implications.
Yeah, and I have to admit, I'm not really excited for this fight. Not because I don't think both guys are talented, they are excellent fighters. Just on paper, when you look at it, this should be a comfortable decision win for Frankie Edgar. But what you did bring up is the perfect point of Aldo has kind of shown the way to beat Frankie Edgar, and it's going to be interesting to see how long it takes before another fighter tries and implements that plan. The problem is, we know Edgar's got a fantastic chin.
Yeah.
Eventually, someone is going to turn that switch off. It happens to everyone.
Yeah.
Jeremy Stephens is the kind of guy who you could sleep on him and he'll land that one good moment in a fight, and that's the end of it. So like I said, I'm not going to go too deep into it because I think Edgar will win a decision. But do not be surprised if Jeremy Stephens gets that one highlight moment. And if he does do that, then it's hard not to put him in that discussion along with, Holloway and Pettis and Aldo if McGregor is going to come back down. But to be put, at least in a title eliminator going forward.
Yeah. I'd probably match Stephens up with the loser of Pettis and Holloway and then give the winner of that the fight against Aldo. If, for example, Conor didn't come back, whatever, we don't know what the circumstances there, but that's probably how I'd maybe match it up. But, okay, so going up to the main card, kicks off. You've got the average-looking Miesha Tate against Raquel Pennington. This match, Raquel Pennington is a dark horse in that bantamweight division because people should look at the loss to Holly Holm. That was a really close fight, and Raquel Pennington brought a fight to Holly, and she was game. And since then, she's just obviously been ticking up the wins and doing what she does. But she's one of them ones that people just aren't talking about. She's going right under that radar, and she's just a little dark horse in the bantamweight division. And I think for Miesha Tate, I think she coached her on the Ultimate Fighter off the top of my head, or she was on Team. I can't remember which team she was on, but she was on the Ultimate Fighter, and Miesha Tate was one of the coaches. But since then, Raquel Pennington's just a quiet fighter winning the fights, and I think, though, in my opinion, Miesha Tate's got more under her arsenal. Like I think she's just got more weapons to win the fight. I'm not saying Raquel can't. I think Miesha will win it, in my opinion. For Miesha Tate, she really wants to get this win because then she could try and... She said it herself, she wants that third Ronda Rousey fight. I probably wouldn't want it if I was her, but she wants it anyway. Yeah, so I'm probably going to go with Miesha on this one. And I probably... Because Raquel Pennington's tough as nails, I might go for a decision win for Miesha Tate on this one myself.
Yeah, it's hard not to look past a Miesha Tate fight here, but I agree with Raquel. If you look from the home fight, which was a close fight, the Andrade loss was a close loss in their first fight. I know she got revenge on her later on. She's not an easy out for anyone. She's big for 135. She's good. She's got nifty submission. I mean, that bulldog choke that she pulled off against Evan Smith is still one of the best chokes that I've seen. But Miesha Tate is a massive step up from the people that she's been fighting recently, other than that home fight, which was 18 months ago, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
The thing with Tate that you have to wonder is, she did take a bit of a pasting against Amanda Nunes, and eventually she took a pasting against Ngannou as well. I mean, everyone says that was a controversial end, but she was getting dinged all over pretty much.
Getting mauled, yeah.
And eventually, that's going to take its toll.
Yeah.
I'm not incensed to see a Tate Rousey free card fight. I mean, that's even if Rousey beats Nunes, but the UFC are in a tricky position. For me, not to jump ahead, if Tate wins this fight, the smartest thing she can do is called Cyborg out for a 140 or a 145 fight.
Yeah.
That's a big money fight for her.
Yeah.
She's already won the title when all of us thought, Tate's she's not championship material.
Yeah.
She looked fantastic getting it off home. Go and get that big money while you've still got a few years left. And I mean, Cyborg might knock away some of them good looks that she has, but she could go and do some modelling, or she could go and do something,
presenting.
She's a talent.
You're right. That's the thing with Miesha now. You just got to realise, like, you've done a Strikeforce champion, you've been UFC champion, you've got a lot of stuff going externally outside of the cage. The thing with Cyborg for me, I want to touch on that quickly, is she should never fight at 140 again. Never even think about it, never do it. She should not bother. She should tell the UFC to go and suck it. The UFC are absolutely stupid and out of their mind to bother even putting her at that weight after seeing what she's like at the weight cuts. Put her at 145, and if no one's wanting to fight her at 145, then just let her go and fight at Invicta. She's getting paid there anyway. Or make a 145 division in the UFC. Just stop doing the 140. Yeah, you're right. I think Miesha Tate, she probably, like, that right straight from Amanda Nunes, which just messed up her nose, was horrendous to watch, because I was like, damn, that's going to wreck a year, that is. But I think, Raquel's got a big step up, and I just think Miesha's probably going to get the win in this one, but it'll be hard fought for. It'll be a hard fought win, because Raquel's she's a gritty fighter. She's hard to beat. She is a strong girl. I was surprised with this next matchup, if I'm honest with you. Kelvin Gastelum against Donald Cerrone. I was just surprised with the matchup being made. For Kelvin, he fought a Johnny Hendricks, who's even recently said about retirement, possibly if he loses his next fight. I think that was already in his mind prior to the Kelvin fight, because that just wasn't the Johnny Hendricks that fought, say, for example, Robbie Lawler even. It was a good win for Kelvin, don't get me wrong, but Donald Cerrone is a different level of striker. Like, Kelvin looked good with striking because he's been at King's MMA there working, do some good work there. But Donald, I think, is just going to... Unless Kelvin takes him down, but then if you take Donald down, Donald's a nightmare on his back. Kelvin's going to just get a clinic put on him in the striking department, I feel, anyway, on this bout. And that's if Kelvin even makes welterweight.
Yeah, that's the big test, really, isn't it? Is he going to make weight? I mean, he's looked fantastic since he hit 170. His striking is, especially what we've seen against Rick Story, is one of the best in that division. Like, that combination is one of the best combinations
I've ever seen
landed in the Octagon before. And I'm with, like you said, it is a weird fight to put together. And that Cerrone Lawler fight that was originally planned was excellent. And Cerrone wanted to stay on the card, and it kind of feels like they've been scratching around for another top 10 welterweight who's willing to take the fight on the shorter camp there. And Calvin's done that. I think Cerrone should win this fight, but Cerrone's one of them people. He looks great for 4 or 5 fights, and then he has that one fight where he just throws everything away by either getting outlanded by a guy you do in class as a great striker, like Dos Anjos at the first fight, we're like, whoa, he got dropped by him, or he just doesn't turn up. He just doesn't seem interested. So as long as he's in the mode and ready to fight, I cannot pick against Donald Cerrone. And I wouldn't be surprised if he does stop Gastelum. Although one thing we can't say about Gastelum is he's got a hell of a chin as well.
Yeah. He's just got that kind of Mexican boxer style. Those Mexican boxers that were just hard to beat. He's kind of got that in him, Calvin. Wow, this is not even on. This isn't even co-main event even. Chris Weidman, Yoel Romero. This fight actually has now become a far more important fight than it was previously. Before now, when Luke Rockhold and Jacare fight got cancelled, this fight now for me just got a lot more important. A hell of a lot more kind of stake here with Weidman and Romero, because Romero was penciled in for possible title shot, and then he got popped or didn't get popped. Whatever you saw at the moment is getting so much wrong, but they get so much right. It's weird. But Chris Weidman, he's got a tough test in Yoel Romero. Like, he is a tough dude. But the thing is, I think for Weidman, he needs to get this win big. It's huge for Weidman to get this win, because if he doesn't get this win, it puts him right back. At least 3 fights probably for a title shot. I probably would go with Chris Weidman in this. because I've got to be honest, time isn't on your Romero's side at all. And I know they pushed him pretty quick up the ranks, so to speak, in the matchups, and he did well. He got the wins that he needed to. Questionable wins against Tim Kennedy, for example. But I would probably go with Weidman, because I think Romero's he's 39 now, 39 years old. It's got to catch up at some point, that age factor, and it doesn't matter how many Olympics you want to do or how much you compete. It takes it catches up with you, and he's not fought either for basically nearly a year. Romero, I'd probably go with Weidman. I don't know about yourself, Ian.
Yeah, it's hard not to pick Weidman, but Romero has an excellent chance here if he can finish the fight, because that first round especially, Weidman's an excellent wrestler, but for me, Yoel Romero is possibly the best wrestler in MMA, in the UFC. His balance when people get in on his hip is ridiculous. Yeah. So he needs to do the unpredictable things that he did against the likes of Lyoto Machida, where he's jumping off the cage and diving in with knees and stuff like that. He needs to be able to do that, and he needs to land on Weidman. I don't think it's impossible that he does that. Weidman, stand-up defense-wise, is not elite. He's got a good chin, but he does get hit quite a bit, and we've seen that. I mean, Belfort landed some strikes early on. Yeah. Lyoto Machida landed some strikes as the fight went on, where Weidman just couldn't get close to them. So the problem, like we said, with Romero, age, he gasses. That Jacare fight where he won, technically. He gassed horribly in the middle of the second round, and you do not want to gas against Chris Weidman. That's not going to be a good night for him. So you have to pick Weidman, probably by decision. But I would tentatively, if I was a gambler, throw a couple of pounds on Romero stopping the fight in the first round by knockout.
I like that. I like that idea. I might have to throw that in there myself. Well, you say a couple of pence myself for me. The next fight is pure, beautiful art. I call it a beautiful, violent art form. This Joanna Jedrzejczyk against Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Now, Mike Goldberg is going to murder this fight. I don't think Mike Goldberg should be allowed to commentate for that bout, but you've got Joanna, who's went to ATT and been training there. Now, obviously, she's already got a skill set. They probably helped her out with, training partners, sparring partners, etc. will have helped her by no means. Like the level of competition there, the technical side of things with the wrestling, the grappling, which will help as well, because taking that down defense anyway was pretty good. That girl improved leaps and bounds since the Claudia Gadelha fight the first time they fought. But Karolina, she's so well-rounded as well, and she's so relentless. The pair of them have met up in the past before, I think, in a kickboxing bout, maybe. I can't remember what. I think it was off the top of my head, or maybe an amateur bout, amateur MMA. I think it was even. I'm going to favour Joanna because it's Joanna Jedrzejczyk, and no one hits as hard as her. Now Karolina can lay the strikes on with kind of volume. But Joanna can put a pretty good volume out, but the power is just a different level of power.
Yeah, and you're right. I'm just checking out because I had heard they had fought, but I wasn't sure it was MMA. And you're right, they fought amateur MMA. Yeah. And Joanna actually submitted Karolina by getting a choke. But what you've literally broke down the fight, how I would break it down. I'm on record as saying Joanna is my favourite fighter to watch now. There isn't anybody in the UFC that brings what she brings. No. There's a mixture of extreme high-level technical ability. Yeah. Then there's the chaos that she brings. And then for a European, we're from Europe, from mainland Europe, they're not kind of known for having a personality. They can be a bit deadpan. But Joanna she should be a star. And I'm hoping that being on the undercard of this Conor McGregor fight will allow more people to see her. Karolina, I would actually argue that Karolina's probably the more technical striker of the two of them, but she doesn't have the power. Yeah. we've seen the difference. Joanna in the clinch with her elbows and knees is devastating. We saw what she did to Julia Pena, Esparza, even Claudia Gadelha as the fight went on the last fight. Whereas Carolina, her knees are excellent in the clinch, but there just doesn't seem to be anything behind them. And I kind of feel like if it goes into a clinching fight, that you can only survive what Joanna brings for so long before you get worn down by it. And the one thing that we have seen, and we haven't seen from Carolina so far, is that Joanna has a gas tank like nobody in MMA. 4 and 5, she stepped it up to another level against Claudia Gadelha. So I'm going to pick Joanna because I think it's the smart pick to make. I don't think it necessarily will be easy in the first couple of rounds, but as the fight goes on, she should probably get the finish, Sharon. Hopefully, like you said, like we were saying, gets put on a bigger sign of fight fans knowing who she is, because she deserves more recognition than she gets. Because she arguably is the sport's most exciting fighter at the moment.
By a mile. And she even said recently she's thinking, she's looking towards motherhood, etc. She might have only X amount of fights left. So you've got to think, you've got to make the most of this girl while you can. And if you're in UFC, she's only going to be around a little while. You need to make as much dollar bills as you can out of this girl. You've got to push and pump her out. And I think hopefully this card, after her saying that in interviews this week, they might maybe put a little bit more of an emphasis on it. So I think this fight I'm more interested in than the co-main event. But yeah, the co-main event itself, Tyron Woodley against Stephen Thompson. Tyron Woodley went on record yesterday, I think, saying he's looking to clear out the division. Well, he's only saying that now because Rory McDonald's not there. But this is, again, just a tale of two guys, because you've got Tyron Woodley, who for the first round is a terrifying specimen of a human being. But then if you get Tyron Woodley to the 5th round, he will not be the same guy as he was in the 1st round. But Stephen Thompson, he's just a beautiful, he's got such a high IQ level of striking where he will analyse the fight as it's going and make adjustments. So combinations that he throws the first time, he will slightly alter them the second time. So then he will land it, or maybe it's cleaner, or he comes away with less damage. For me, I think Tyron Woodley has got to go to his wrestling. He's not used it that much in the UFC, but he's got to try and use the wrestling as much as he can this fight, because you can't let Wonderboy Thompson have that distance, that range where he can pick what he wants to do, because he's going to land and he's going to hurt you. And Tyron Woodley's been stopped before. And it could definitely happen again. I'd probably pick Wonderboy Thompson because he's probably the nicest person in the world. Like, he is literally nicer than Sage Northcutt. And, it's not that I don't have anything against Woodley. I just think Wonderboy is on another level at the moment with striking. He's just in the zone.
Yeah, this is the fight on the card that I'm finding the most difficult to pick a winner on. I think, like you said, Wonderboy technically striking is miles ahead of Woodley, but the one thing you can throw at Thompson is he does get tagged. When fighters get in on him, they do land strikes. And Rory really could have done a lot better than he did if he hadn't had this fly-in knee bar attempt plan that he seemed to have at the beginning of every round. Because when it got into the 4th and 5th, when he started jabbing a bit more, he was backing Thompson up a lot easier than it looked earlier on. And the one thing we can throw at Woodley, and we saw against Lawler, we've seen against Condit, is he can close a distance at such a pace that big right hand that he throws can put anyone away, because you cannot see it coming.
No.
And I agree, he needs to use his wrestling if that isn't part of the plan. But the other side of Woodley is that, we've seen Wonderboy's been working with Weidman. His takedown offense has got much better.
Yeah.
But Woodley's speed eliminates for me what Weidman could have offered, because Weidman's quite sluggish, clumpy, moving around, grab your takedown. So Thompson needs to move around. He needs to keep that kick going, keep it unpredictable. And I cannot argue with you going with Wonderboy, but there's been something nagging me. I think Woodley's probably going to land another big right hand, and I think he's going to finish the fight. I've just got a sneaky suspicion that Woodley is going to win this fight and then probably come undone against Damian Maia at the beginning of next year.
Oh, like that is a fight you don't want, Damian Maia. Like, oh, I had the pleasure of meeting him, but oh my gosh, Damian Maia is just a blanket of devastation. He is. Wonderboy Thompson. I think what gets me is the fact that it's his background as well. The kickboxing, the 57-0. I think he's got just that further level of striking where he could possibly use Tyron Woodley's explosive right hand to maybe counter it himself. But hey, look, we're going to find out. I tell you, if Wonderboy gets clipped, I think it could all be over very, very quick because Woodley's got that power. The main event, the main attraction, the reason probably 99% of people are going to tune in, Eddie Alvarez facing Conor McGregor. So I've said it before in the past. I'm probably going to favour Conor in this fight, but I'm only a bit griped is I want Conor to actually defend a title. I don't think he's defended a title he's won with Cage Warriors or the UFC. Well, he hasn't done it with the UFC. I don't think he did with Cage Warriors either. And I'm like, I just wanted to see him defend his belt as well. That'd be something I'd like to see. So, look, you've got Eddie Alvarez, who is a guy who I was so made up for winning the lightweight title because he's been one of the top lightweights in the world for God knows how long. And he's been around the world fighting all competition. He is game to fight anyone, anytime. He came into the UFC, back into UFC, and it was a bit of a questionable return against Cowboy, and then he had the win against Anthony Pettis, which was a bit boring, and then he had that fight against Rafael dos Anjos, and you think, what the hell? And I think maybe the title fight was what brought Eddie Alvarez out of his skin. I just think Conor, if he can keep that distance away from Eddie, he can just pick Eddie apart. I'd probably see Conor winning this. If I'm honest with you, if it doesn't go past 2 rounds, I could probably see Conor getting a finish. That's just where I'm looking at it because of the length and the reach that he has and the power. So how do you look at this, Ian?
So yeah, for me personally, I think you're right. The key for Conor to win is going to be that distance, but this is Eddie Alvarez's fight to lose because he's the guy who's fought the higher caliber fighters at 155. Mm-hmm. He's been in there with good strikers in the past. He's been in there with good grapplers. And I was astounded to read this week that inside the UFC, Eddie Alvarez has a 100% record when it comes down to takedowns. And I think that is something that he can use massively. And, Conor can, look to the fight against Chad Mendes where he got taken down and he was active on his back with elbows, but we know how judges work. Yeah. And Alvarez has shown in the past he does not care what the fans think. If he knows that he can hold Conor down and grind out a win, then he's going to do that. And I think that's a possibility. And, I think he has to avoid trying to be emotional in there. And if McGregor lands something big, trying to land it back, which I think he can be guilty of at times.
Oh, yeah.
The other side of it, though, for me with Eddie is it just does not seem that, despite his best efforts, Conor McGregor has not got in Eddie Alvarez's head.
No.
I think obviously Eddie does care if he wins or loses, but for Eddie, this is his big payday. He's always wanted a big payday in the UFC. And this is that moment. And if he can win this fight, and if he can stop Conor McGregor, this could be the start of something for Eddie Alvarez in terms of making big purses going forward for the rest of his career. So I'm going to pick Eddie Alvarez just to mix it up for you on the Conor side. I think he probably does it by decision, but I'm going to throw in there that he submits Conor McGregor in the 4th or 5th round. Yeah. I kind of feel like the UFC are banking on a two-weight champion and this being a momentous weekend. But for me, I don't see a UFC title changing hands this weekend.
Oh, nice. Okay. Check you out. Well, that's the thing. I think if people think about just the Nate Diaz fight and they go, oh, yeah, but he got off from Nate Diaz's I'm like, Nate Diaz is a good submission artist, but he isn't a good wrestler. He's not got good takedowns. And like people are like, oh, Conor stopped Nate's takedowns. Nate's never been good at takedowns, ever. The only reason he taps people out is because they're dumb enough to take him down to the ground. But then when you get Chad Mendes, who's a 145er, not a 155er, and taking Conor down for fun, Eddie's got, like you said, you're bang on, he's got some fantastic wrestling. And he's a bigger dude than Chad. He can take Conor down. And again, he just needs to take Conor down a couple of rounds, tire Conor out and then start to pick him apart, like kind of like Nate was, you know, when the time went on. It did show Conor's style of fighting is explosive, power movements, and that does take a toll on your body. You can't do it for 5 rounds. The Nate Diaz fight, when he just kept running away to get his breath back, to get the energy to throw one big strike, then run away again. You can't do that because Eddie's just going to chase you down, and Eddie will probably check his leg kicks as well. I don't know if Eddie will check his leg kicks because the Donald Cerrone fight got his legs mashed up actually, but you know, that's another weapon that Conor might throw. But yeah, it's a hell of a weekend. I can't wait for it, to be fair. Ian, again, thank you so much for your time, sir. It's been a pleasure and honour speaking with you, as always. Your social media for people to jump onto so they can listen at home.
Thank you for having me on as well. It's nice to actually break down the card. I'm really looking forward to it. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at Ian Bain MMA. If you want to argue, then add me. But if you're just going to add me and just look at what I'm writing, I wouldn't really bother because I kind of just keep blocking people for no reason on Twitter. I've become one of them people now. I'm not one of them people who wants to have 10,000 followers.
Aww.
I'm happy with what I've got. If you're going to add something to my following and going to actually tweet me, then please do follow. If not, I couldn't really care, if I'll be honest.
What about Newcastle United fans? You're actually winning. You're actually winning now.
Following you. Yep. They're the worst people to follow you because the chances you could run into them. Whereas MMA is so big that I can avoid them in Newcastle. Yeah, so if you're on Facebook though and you do enjoy MMA discussion, I do still have the MMA opinion on there. We've just passed 20,000 likes.
Sweet.
Head over there. I sometimes do some rambling on over there and post some funny stuff. So yeah, come and give that a like. I'm probably more likely to respond to you on there than I am on Twitter.
I will put these in. I'll put the link for both of these in the description anyway. But again, Ian, pleasure as always, sir. I want you to have a great weekend enjoying the fight. Have a great time in general in life across overseas. And sir, just thank you again for your time. And
thank you, and thanks for having me on again.